ナムミョホレンゲキョナムミョホレンゲキョナムミョホレンゲキョ Okay, thank you very much. So, I mentioned at the beginning, before we started, Buddhism is not just in our heads, but also something which we have to practice, which we have to do. So, Nichiren Shonin, the founder of our tradition, often mentioned there should be 3 elements involved in our practice all the time: mind, body, mouth. And this relates to the 3 things which we create karma with through our thoughts, through our actions, and through our speech. We shape our lives, and then based on our patterns of behavior, we pre-program how we will respond in the future. So therefore our practice is to purify our thoughts, words and actions. So therefore when we chant, Nichiren Shonin also said we should engage these 3. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the chanting. And then when you're practicing every day, try to check occasionally if all 3 are involved. Because sometimes if we have a good habit of practicing every day, our practice can become like a routine. And then it's sometimes easy to go on autopilot. So whenever you're chanting, at the beginning, try to think, okay, first of all, I'm chanting with my voice correctly. Means, first of all, pronounce the words correctly. This is a Buddha's teaching, so very important. And also, am I supporting my sound enough? So whenever we chant, we should chant from the diaphragm and breathe correctly. So in Japanese they say that tanden is a spot about 2 inches below your navel. We should chant from here and then support the sound correctly. And chanting sutra or chanting the Odaimoku is very, very closely connected to breathing. So during the meditation I mentioned, we control our breathing and calm our breathing down in order to calm our mind down, because they are connected. So same thing when we're chanting. So try to check your breathing. So if you chant for 20 minutes and then by the end of it you're gasping for water and then a raspy voice, it means that you should check you have an incorrect technique, and you will not get the maximum benefit. And also our body, we should have the correct posture. Also it's connected with breathing, but correct posture when we're chanting. And that means with our body show respect to the Buddha's teachings. And of course mind. So I mentioned autopilot. I won't say chanting on autopilot is without any benefit at all. However, actually we should have our mind here placed on chanting. So at our last annual seminar, we talked a lot about what we do with our mind when we're chanting. So it's too difficult to explain here, especially on Facebook. So you should come to the temple after lockdown and then practice together. So also when I'm chanting, I also check if all three are involved. So therefore, sometimes I'm hitting mokugyo or mokusho and then silently chanting. Check if my mind is connected to the sound, and then a restart. So this is a custom or way of checking. So our Buddhist practice, we work on thoughts, words, and action. So Buddhism is not all thoughts. We have a body and a mind, but I have never met anybody who just has a mind without a body attached. However, sometimes it seems like people's approach to practice is purely mental. And on the other hand, some people try to find happiness through developing body, physical health, sometimes beauty, but no guarantee the mind will follow. So we have to take a holistic approach, and then body and mind are a package. They mutually influence each other. So therefore our practice also has to take into account and address healthy body and healthy mind. So this Wednesday, in the UK at least, the garden centres will open. So I know among our Sangha we have a few gardeners, so maybe they're very happy. So I was thinking, especially during lockdown, lots of people seem to be doing DIY projects and taking the opportunity to, paint that bathroom that has been left undone or whatever it is. And that kind of activity, physical activity, is very important, especially if we don't usually have the time to do that. So I remember the first year of my training as a Shami, as a novice priest. Traditionally, so our Sangha members, I'm sorry you heard this story before, but traditionally the first year of training is you're not allowed to ask a question. So for me it was extremely difficult, and there's only 2 topics in the curriculum for year 1, at least with my master: chanting practice, and the other one, cleaning, for 1 year. So I used to come to the temple and then say hello to the Buddha, hello Nichiren Shonin, and then my master, oh hello Kanse, okay, clean. And then he'd go back to his quarters, and then after I finished cleaning the temple, chanting practice, and then that's it, okay, back to home. And I remember about 4 months in, I'm fairly patient sometimes, and I don't mind cleaning, but I thought, when are we going to get to the Buddhism? when can I learn some Buddhism? You know, cleaning's fine, and it's a hoop I have to jump through, no problem. But you know, when's the real stuff going to arrive? And then a couple months after that, I was in the bathroom cleaning the toilet, and then I had you know, rubber gloves and a cloth or a toothbrush or something. And then my master came, and then he said, "Oh, Kanse, please explain or describe your cleaning routine to me." And then so I explained, based on the instructions he'd given me, my way of cleaning. So of course, first of all, start with the gohozen, the altar, and then hondo, main hall, and then room here, and then the entrance room is very important because people arrive at the temple, and then reception room, and then finally the kitchen, and then bathroom, toilet. And then he listened, and then he said, "Oh, very good. Okay, about time you're ready for next practice." So inside I was, "Oh yes, finally." Here we go. Finally I graduated. Okay, and then it may just be my imagination, but my memory, there's some twinkle in his eye, and then he said to me, "Okay, now you should remove gloves, and also you cannot use any cloth or tool for cleaning." Oh, my heart sank. So I said to him, as it happened, I was next to the toilet bowl at that moment. So I said, "But Sensei, what if there's some, you know, very dirty stain which will not come off?" And then he looked at me and he said, "Keep rubbing. Sooner or later, will come off." Oh. So that is a very traditional education as a priest. So I'm not saying everybody has to go out and then you know, cleaning toilets become your practice. However, I realized I was waiting for what I thought was the real teaching, but actually that was the real teaching. And for me, it was much more beneficial, I think, than philosophizing and asking lots of doctrinal questions. I remember in that year I compiled a whole list. I think it must have been about 5 A4 pages of questions to ask my master after the year was up. But actually, after the year was up and then I read them, all of them completely, you know, what's the word? They had expired, or they were no longer relevant. So through the course of the cleaning practice, the answers had been sorted out anyway. And this practice of cleaning has a long history in Buddhism. So I don't know if anybody out there knows the story of one of the Buddha's disciples. His name was Chudapantaka. So I'd like to tell you the story of Chudapantaka today. So Chudapantaka was slow-witted and unable to learn even a single verse. But the Buddha, using expedience, using skillful means, taught him to sweep the floor or to wipe the floor while repeating one simple verse: sweeping the ground, sweeping the ground, sweeping the ground of the mind, in order to focus his mind. However, Chudapantaka couldn't even remember that verse. So he became a disciple of the Buddha, and then he always did his best, but he often struggled whether to remain as a monk or not. And then one day he finally decided to leave this robe. And then when he was leaving, the Buddha called him and then said, Chuddapantaka, stay here and facing to the east, recite this verse and then wipe your hands with white cloth. But he couldn't memorize it. So he tried to continue memorizing the phrase, and then as he was cleaning, his white cloth over the days and months became grimy, dirty. And then Chuddapantaka, his heart was very pure, so he became upset that the cloth was dirty, and then he tried to wash the cloth, but he couldn't make it back to the pure white color it was originally. So he was sad and worried, and then he took the cloth to the Buddha and then apologized with the tears in his eyes. And then the Buddha said to him, your white cloth did not become dirty because of the grime of the stuff you're cleaning. It was caused by the grime from your mind. If this is so, how are you going to take care? Chuddapantaka answered, I will do my best to clean my grime and other people's grime. And then he began to clean everything. The garden, the main hall, the toilets, other people's shoes, bags, clothes, everything. And all the time he was reciting to himself the verse, sweep dirt, clean grime of the mind. And then the Buddha's other students noticed and were surprised at Chuddapantaka's strange behavior. But they saw what he was doing, and then they began to respect his practice. They no longer treated him as a fool. But one day, some of them tried to test him. And because he had gained a good reputation, they were a little bit jealous. So they asked him, oh, Chuddapantaka, please give a speech before many people gathered. And then they are waiting for him to trip up. And then he said, oh, I'm truly a foolish person. Therefore, I don't have any good teachings to offer you. I only remember what I've practiced under the Buddha. So I would like to share this. Please listen to it gently. And then as soon as he explained, he recited slowly and with a beautiful and gentle voice, sweep dirt, clean grime, sweep dirt, clean grime of the mind. And then the disciples of the Buddha who had tried to test him, they were so impressed by the compassion in his voice and the humility. And they apologized to him. His short speech was concluded with rapturous applause. So Chuddapantaka held the teaching of cleaning throughout his whole life, and he maintained his cleaning practice for others both physically and mentally. He dedicated his life to cleaning his mind. So it's a very encouraging story, because usually we think Buddhism is very difficult. You have to be very learned about many different topics and doctrines and philosophy. However, actually, that story shows truth and peace can be found in very ordinary activities. And actually, philosophizing and thinking is very, very important. But as I mentioned, we should take a holistic approach. So body, mind, and actions. So this week if you're doing any DIY or planning to go to the garden center, please think about how you can practice Buddhism in very ordinary activities. Actually, just cleaning, there are many things we can learn. So, through my experience, I learned the value of cleaning. And one more story I have, which is when I went to my master's home temple for the first time in Kyushu, south of Japan. I was staying there for several weeks, and then every day after morning service, my practice is cleaning. And then I cleaned the main hall of the temple. And it wasn't to make the temple clean, because I cleaned it just yesterday, so it was already clean, but that was my practice. And then I remember my master's brother, who's the head priest or abbot or master of that temple, came back from visiting some congregation member's house, and then whenever he returned to the temple, he always went to the altar and then chanted. And then I was behind the altar somewhere, there's a corridor behind it, on my hands and knees with a cloth, and then he obviously heard me making a noise, and then came around to check what's up. And then he said something like, "Oh, Kanse, you make the temple very beautiful. Good job." And then, oh, yes. Oh, how he saw my hard work. And then I was very happy. And then a couple of days later, similar thing. I'm in the main hall, and then on my hands and knees with a rag, and then the master of the temple came, and then I was waiting for his praise, but nothing. He didn't acknowledge me. Oh, then I realized, oh, so I'm looking for that praise and that value. Why? So there's many things we can learn from cleaning, and especially if you have trouble to see a solution, a way forwards, I recommend changing your daily activity to do something which you don't normally do. By changing your behavior, a new idea can come. Because, as I mentioned, body and mind is connected. So we shouldn't underestimate the importance of practice with our body. Okay, so today those are just a few words. I hope they're helpful for anybody listening. This afternoon tea, 4 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, please let's chant Odaimoku 3 times. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho